What's up everyone, it's Jan Boers, new video, new Humans of Eurovision show, and today I'm going to talk with the head of delegation of Ireland, Michael Keeley, who's just done exceptional job for his country, he's still doing, and maybe you don't think so, but that's the perspective of just the results, but there are results behind the scenes which are very visible to me, and we are going to talk about it, so please welcome Michael Keeley. Hey Michael, I'm really glad you're here taking part in my Humans of Eurovision show. How are you doing? How things are in Ireland?
Things are okay. I mean, like the rest of Europe, we're in the middle of a full level 5 lockdown. So it's getting a little tedious. The vaccination rollout has been very, very slow, as I'm sure it has been where you are as well. So things are kind of getting a little bit, frayed towards the nerves are getting a little frayed, but hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel, and in 6 months' time, hopefully we'll be through the other side of this and it'll all be over. But it's 12 months ago, this time last year, when the Eurovision was cancelled, we thought this would all be over in 6 weeks, but here we are.
Yeah, I remember myself having exactly the same thought, and if just look back, I was just like, what I was thinking like that, but we couldn't predict it. It was very new for us, but it's not new now. So how you adapted as a television producer to the situation?
Well, it's hard because everything takes 3 or 4 times as long as it used to, because everybody's working from home, and in normal times you can just get up from your desk and you can walk down the corridor and you can talk to the people that you need to talk to. Now everything is email, it's over email or it's over Zoom, or which was a novelty at the start, but now it's a little hard sometimes to conduct meetings with 12 or 15 people in them, all on a screen. So everything takes a little bit longer, and but we're still doing it. We're still making television programs, and we're still doing most of the stuff that we normally do. I work, as you know, in the entertainment department, so a lot of our shows don't have audiences anymore, and that's a big issue, because an audience brings atmosphere, and it brings, a sense of excitement and a sense of theatre to what we do. And unfortunately, some of our big shows now don't have that, so they're suffering more than most, I suppose.
Yeah, I saw many other countries, of course, they suffer the same problem. And some countries deal with really, really nice with new methods of television. Some countries struggle a bit, but at Eurovision we already know that probably there will be no audience at all. How do you prepare your artist for not sing in front of the full arena and just for 200 million people in front, like behind the cameras,
Yeah. Well, our artist was naturally very, very disappointed last year when the Eurovision was cancelled, and she couldn't go, and she lives in New York ordinarily, so she went back to New York, and but the door was always open for her to come back and represent Ireland again, with providing she had a good song, which she has this year, thankfully. But her focus is just getting onto the stage. That's all she wants to do, just get onto the stage and perform in Rotterdam. We've made our backup tape. We did our backup tape, a couple of weeks ago, and we really don't want to play it. We really don't want to have to play the backup tape, and so the big focus is just to get her on stage, even if it's only to the people working the cameras and the people in the production gallery and the people who are on the floor of the arena. That's all that counts, really.
Yeah, and then it's really hard, as you mentioned, the live on tapes, backup tapes, however we call it. How much do you feel this can be an advantage or disadvantage for other countries to have it? Like, probably we all understand why it's here, but
Yeah, I mean, of course, I understand the reasons why they want us to do it. You know, it put an awful lot of extra work on the individual broadcasters because, I mean, you know, that's not something that we had planned on doing necessarily, and you know, like a lot of other broadcasters, my budget for Eurovision hasn't grown anymore, you know, so I have to find the money for the recording of the backup tape within my budget. So that was hard. It also, I think, at the end of the day, if the worst case scenario happens and everybody has to play the backup tapes, I think it's going to show up the differences between the broadcasters and the approaches, yes, of course, but also the amount of money different broadcasters have available to spend on their Eurovision act, you know. So some countries, like I know they've gone to arenas where they've set up a screen, where they've set up all of replicated all of the technology that you would get at Eurovision. We don't have that. We have a very small studio available to us with an LED screen, and we just have to try and make the best presentation of that song that we possibly can. But I think at the end of the day, our facilities just don't compare with some of the facilities of some of the bigger broadcasters around Europe, you know. So I think that when you're putting these acts side by side, I think that's going to show up the differentials in terms of just what's available in terms of resources.
This is a good topic. Do you think this can be huge disadvantages for the countries who lack of money, or maybe disadvantage in the way how kind of inexperienced they are in the like super big huge broadcast and the camera editing and whatever technological what's nowadays trendy at Eurovision and big countries world, but probably not in the smaller countries and with less budget.
Yeah, I mean, like, I suppose, are you talking about in terms of the style of the presentation and stuff like that? I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, there is an international language of television entertainment shows, of course, and the presentation of music acts, but the technology is the differences in technology can be huge, so our television station has suffered from a lack of investment in some of the latest technology, and that I think is that's gonna be shown up if we have to play our backup tape compared to, say, the French or the BBC or the Russians or people who do big shows in big arenas all the time.
Yeah, I always thing when I saw many of those shows abroad, like BBC ones, or the Eurovision ones, or Scandinavian ones, and then I came back to my home. I think we suffered from the same issue, that the lack of investment from the TV. But do you see it's I can see it, but do you see it's backfiring as well as the people, the professionals, are having lack of those experiences, and then when something like this is needed, you suffer from it as well, that you need to find a way how to do it, but you know that you can't be that accurate or just that perfect, because it's just impossible, because you don't have this work power or workforce to make it happen.
Yeah, and as well, Jan, from Eurovision, if a country, particularly in the last 5 or 6 or 10 years, if a country wins Eurovision, you find the same people working on the Eurovision, from different countries. So, even the host broadcaster recognizes that these are skill levels that don't necessarily exist in their own country, and that the easiest thing to do is to import that. Whereas in the old days, when Ireland was the king of Eurovision, when we won all the time and everybody, we thought we were great. One of the big advantages or the big attractions for us was to produce all these shows in Ireland with all of the TV people from Ireland, and we did these shows, and then we thought, look, we're taking our place right there amongst the big nations of the world in terms of how we can produce television shows. The television production business has shot off into the stratosphere in the meantime.
Yeah,
you know,
especially last
and,
decade. Yeah,
especially in the last decade, and we haven't had the investment. We don't have the studio sizes. We only have like one indoor arena that could hold 20,000 people. So there's only one arena that we could use if to put a show on in the scale that people are used to seeing. There's only one arena, and that arena is busy nearly every day of the week, because there are artists who are traveling in and playing concerts and all the kind of stuff. So we have stadiums that are outdoors, but that's no good for Eurovision. And we have smaller venues that are just too small for the size of the competition as it is now.
Yeah. Do you think that even in the near future you will be able to have the negotiation with this arena to host Eurovision? Do you think you're on the track which will make it possible, or do you still think you're struggling? Because we have those conversations a lot that it's upside down kind of, it's not very easy to make Eurovision at your country. But do you think that you'll finally find a track which you can follow for a longer time?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in terms of negotiating with the arena, that's going to be tricky, because those gigs are booked a long time in advance, right? And for Eurovision, you have to take like 4 or 5 weeks, or maybe even 6 weeks, and say we need the arena for like that amount of time. So to tell all these acts, to tell whoever, Jay-Z and Taylor Swift and all of the acts that are currently booked in there.
Go outside the arena.
We've got
miserable people.
Yeah.
It's Eurovision here.
Yeah,
so bigger than you.
So I don't even know how much that would cost to try and buy all these people out. Exactly. Yeah. So I do you know what, I don't think about winning or what we would do if we win after. I think about winning, but I don't think about after. You know what I mean? I just think we'll work all that out. We'll do something. We'll work it out afterwards.
Yeah, but I think with all the honesty, it's not the thing which you need to be concerned this year with all the humble, and I have toward Leslie. But I think they're heavier contenders this year. But I really see that you're on the right track this year, and you can make it to the final, which I think that's the goal we both share. That's the main goal. Everything else is a bonus. Do you think that you're the closer after 2018, of course, but then you had a streak of really lots of unsuccesses, kind of, even there probably very different conditions to it. Do you feel, and back to my previous question, that you're on the right track of being more able each year to contend for the finals?
Do you know, I think we're getting better. I think I have, I've been head of delegation for a while now, but and I think it's been a long learning curve for me, but I've also had to deal with the legacy of our Eurovision success, right? And that has been it's been a long time trying to convince people that the competition has changed dramatically since the time we won back in the 1990s and the 1980s and the competition is a different competition now, completely different competition now. But that legacy is there, and there are people who don't think as deeply about Eurovision as you and I, and they say, well, we just need to send Johnny Logan again, or we just need to send Linda Martin, or we just need to send one of the people who won in the past, and they'll win again. Sure, why? We'll just send another ballad and Johnny Logan again, and so I have been trying to work through all of the different things, because we've had lots of other suggestions about how we should select the artist and what sort of song it should be and all that kind of stuff. And then there are other things, because all of those people who used to be involved in our success, or some of the people who used to be involved in our success back in the good old days, back in, the 30 years ago, they feel a kind of sometimes they feel, I'm not talking about the artists now, I'm talking about lots of other people who are involved in around the edges of our success, but they feel that it's their competition and that they know about it and they won 30 years ago, so they should be allowed be involved again, so some of them get annoyed when I don't put them on juries, or I don't ask for their opinion about the songs that we get, or but so yes, it's been a long learning curve for me, and I think in the last 3 or 4 years in particular, we've started to get it more right than wrong, in terms of how I feel or the competition is going, and even so, but it's all about trying to attract the right type of artist, trying to attract the right type of songwriter, and it's an international business now, as you know. All the songs, they are circulating throughout Europe, and
there is you're saying it's international business already, but it can be as well domestic, as Ireland has a big tradition of making music and actually rising global stars as well. I'm not necessarily saying that you need to involve all of those people or those people who went through Eurovision, as you say, 30 years ago, that it's very irrelevant nowadays, especially in the last 5-6 years, how rapidly the music industry changed, as well as television one. But you are capable now to bring in new stars yet to be maybe in Ireland. How your work affected, or how Eurovision affected younger generation?
I mean, you're right, that we do have a huge tradition of making music, and we have a lot of, compared to the size of our country, we have a lot of artists that are quite well known internationally. But there is still a huge perception issue with the Eurovision in Ireland, So all of the sort of people that are known on the international stage, like Hozier and U2 and The Script and all of these big international acts, they're not Eurovision material, and nor do they want to be involved in Eurovision. So anybody who's kind of starting off now, a lot of people who are starting off now, don't necessarily have that kind of pop music tradition that Eurovision is. They have that kind of indie singer-songwriter, band tradition.
So let me ask you. What's the Eurovision music like? As me personally, and you know me very well from this, that I don't really agree that there should be something like Eurovision thing, especially when we suffer to bring in artists to it. Shouldn't we be more open to what kind of music should be at Eurovision?
Yeah, but like the range of artists that want to be involved in Eurovision is actually quite limited here, so even if we do want an indie band, or even if we do like or a heavy metal band, or a folk music act or whatever, they don't necessarily see Eurovision as the best place for them, and that's a perception as well that I'm trying to change, although it's hard, and at the end of the day, it's still a competition, and a lot of musicians don't like the competitive element, because a competition means, yes, there's a winner, but there's 24 losers or 39 losers, So that you cannot get over that at the end of the day, where people just don't want to be, I don't want to put myself out there and be a loser, So a lot of them are too cool, for that.
Yeah, I was always answering this, and I think it was a good thing to say already to them, you're doing the music normally, you want to sell your CDs, CDs of course doesn't really exist, but you want to sell your records, you want to be listened, you want to sell tickets to your concerts, so you're competing anyway, if you don't sell enough, you're losing, if you sell enough, you're winning, and here's a ticket for free, for 200 million viewers. How can you say no to this?
That's exactly what my argument is as well. I say to people, I said, look, if you go, I'm not going to try and turn you into some sort of European pop music act that you are not.
I said, it's not what it's all about.
Exactly. So I said, look, what people relate to is authenticity. They relate to a tune, you know, that obviously universal themes in a tune, and if you just go out there and do exactly what you normally do on a big stage, all of the people who hate you anyway will still hate you, but you can only get more fans, you know, because you're going to be exposed to 200 million people, you know. That's my argument. But people are still they are very, very nervous of it. They are very, very nervous of the perception of them being involved in the competition, particularly in Ireland. You know, they think because people still think, you know, there's a certain amount of, sneering at the competition. You know, some people, particularly music journalists, think it's deeply uncool, that your reputation would be damaged if you were to take part in it, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have the same problem in here, but I think what really happened and I think really it was the big work of Mikolas Joseph and his spirit, that he wasn't really understood or taken seriously by the press and media, like whoever involved in the Czech music industry, and then he shown everybody else that, well, I don't give a damn like what you think here. I'm successful abroad. Like, who can tell this from you? Like, no one.
Yeah.
Like, literally zero. And then I think Eurovision perception was taken much more seriously towards especially younger artists, which they say like, okay, like I want to be known in Germany or, you know, any other country, because normally I just went abroad and no one knows who am I. Even I'm selling out stadiums in here, so that probably makes sense. And 200 million people can't hurt you watching you, so.
Of course, yeah. And that's one of the things that we've been lucky in the last few years. Like, we've attracted some acts like Leslie as well, who would have had a lot of success in America as a songwriter and as a singer. You know, she played Coachella. She, you know, so the fact that we're attracting people like her and people like Ryan O'Shaughnessy as well in the past, who've been
I never know
reasonably
how to
well
pronounce
known.
it. That's super hard.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Sorry, Ryan.
It's pronounced nothing like the way it's spelt, you know. So it's O'Shaughnessy, you know.
Stop it. Let's
so it's just call him Ryan. He likes.
Yeah,
you know.
I do.
But you know, and before Ryan, then you know, we also had Brendan Murray, who was came up through kind of the X Factor kind of talent show. And then before that, we had Nicky Byrne, who was a member of Westlife, you know, so he was probably our biggest known act that we've had. Unfortunately, we didn't qualify that year, but we've been attracting better and better known acts, you know, and that helps our case. And of course, the more success you have, the more people want to be involved in that. You know that, Jan. Like, if you have a top 10 in Eurovision, then people suddenly start taking you seriously, you know?
Yeah,
because
more
they
seriously.
go, wow, okay,
I think
yeah.
our media still doesn't really take it so seriously, but it's just a long process of, you must really, like, my experience is like, you should say like, okay, so don't take it seriously. We have this platform anyway, like no one else has it, so I don't really try, or just, you know, not too much to push them. They will change their opinion or not. It doesn't really matter anyway, because you can't do anything about it. But what you can do is change the opinion of the artists, or the music part of the industry, artists one, or your television approach. What's the RTE approach towards this?
Well, we've tried a lot of different approaches to it, you know. I mean, and some of the perception of the Eurovision is our own fault, right? I mean, we have to admit that some of the methods that we have tried in selecting our acts haven't done anything for the perception of the competition in Ireland, you know, because before my time, you know, after sort of like the 1990s, when we didn't do so well, then there was a television show, like a before the X Factor. It was like a pop idol show, but it was inviting amateurs to be involved, and the prize was to represent Ireland in Eurovision. So that kind of gave people the perception that this is an amateur competition and that anybody can have a go and you don't have to be that good to be able to represent Ireland. So that kind of opened the door to people saying, well, I've only ever sung in my bedroom and I've never performed in front of 200 people in a hall or in a pub, but I can go out and perform in front of 200 million people, you know.
But maybe there's one for a million who can do it, you know. You should search for it as well.
Well, it's like finding, you know what, it's like finding a diamond in, you know, whatever.
In Czech Republic.
So, yeah. or Ireland. So that's unlikely. Let's just be honest. That's unlikely. You're going to find somebody, you're going to discover a new talent, and then they're going to know what to do and they're going to know how to perform completely naturally without any experience at all. So that was our own fault that we kind of suddenly told people this is an amateur competition. So that view has persisted. People still think it's an amateur competition, even though it is the most professional music competition in the world, you know. And but people don't know that, right? People don't realize that, let's just say. So after that,
people in RTE realize that? Do you think?
Because I go around and I tell them.
No, because I was struggling as well in my television to really tell them what is it all about right now, as they really had this history from 2000s, as it was very different competition, I think. And I think it's really hard even to change the minds of the people who are working at television towards this.
Yeah, because it's low down the list of priorities, because it only happens once a year. It's not like a show that's going out every week, where or every night of the week or whatever. So people don't tend to think about it because it's just a one-off special event. It has a budget. The budget hasn't changed in like 20 years, you know. So my budget has been going down every year, you know. So it's seen as, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's not even like taking part in the World Cup, because that for soccer, because that has more of a constant following, you know, football. But this thing is just a once a year, once off event. People don't think about it until it happens, you know, the week of it happening. So it's hard in October to talk about Eurovision to people in television in you know, because they're just going, well, that's like 6 months away. Why are you bothering?
October is a bit too late for, you know.
Yeah, of course. And then, you know, like I would love to be able to do like a Melody Festival, you know, style program here. But, you know, we just, if I try and pitch that kind of show, then we can't make Dancing with the Stars, or we can't, you know what I mean? So it becomes a kind of a, well, why would we do this and not the voice of Ireland?
We had a similar problem in the Czech Republic, as well with budgeting, as well with programming. And I was always saying, like, okay, but we are public broadcasters and we should share, you know, the space towards the artist, as we are starting to forgetting them. We're just having those Dancing with the Stars, which I worked at and I love it. But you're giving the chance to stars which are the stars in their industry already, most likely, better or worse, doesn't matter. But you don't really create a space for the people who are just creating something new and want to represent the country. And that was my argumentation towards the national selection. Okay, we made it just through the online selection, which is a halfway there, but do you think this can be as well the chance for Ireland to go through, you know, to open your arms to the more artists than just one, and show to more people that there's Eurovision? And is that cool? Because even this online selection or any other selection which involve more artists brings in more funds, which they will normally don't have. So
yeah, that's a very good argument. The other problem with that, and I've discovered this from, you know, we, you know, and a few years ago we put a selection process on one of our big talk shows, you know. So it's on a Friday night called The Late Late Show. It's the biggest show, music entertainment show, talk show in the country. And so we had our selection process on that. But we get back to the issue about this is a very small country. People do not like competing against other artists on television because if you have 6 artists and 6 songs, you've got 1 winner and 5 losers. So people
well, if you
don't.
put it this way, you do, but it's still
Well,
6 winners.
but I mean, this is of course the view. Like, I mean, I think, but what it does is you tend to get people who are established who go, well, why would I do that? Why would I want to do that? And so it's easier to attract the professional acts if you don't have a process that involves a public competition like that, So if you have an open call for songs, and then you look at all your songs, people are more likely to send you in songs if they know that it's not going to be known.
I get this
generally.
Experience. We were asked many times by the stars in Czech Republic that they will take part of it if they will be selected internally. And I will always say, if you're afraid, you don't go to even Eurovision because that's a competition anyway. And we said we are still public broadcasters, so we will motivate newcomers to do it as well, but not amateurs. But as well, there can be found somebody we don't know, because that can happen. We don't have eyes anywhere, or everywhere. It's impossible. And somebody had just have the first single, and it can be wow, that's it. Like Nicholas actually was very unexperienced. So
yeah, but and Nicholas was unusual in that, but he had experience, right? I mean, of performing, he had experience of.
No, he didn't actually really.
No. But it's unusual then for somebody if you take somebody who is not used to performing, that yes, they might have a song, they might be able to sing, but then the pressure cooker that is Eurovision, and how much of how that can mess with your mind, I mean, because it is a lot of pressure, and I've seen people over the years who really, really begin to lose it, because the closer you get to the actual show, the more pressure that. Yeah, and all the problems that, just suddenly come out, and then, so then a lot of it is, you've got to mind people, I mean, you've got to be a psychologist as well as a head of delegation. You've got to be a counsellor.
And babysitter.
You've got to be a babysitter if needs be. Yeah, you've got all of that kind of stuff. So it's a huge thing to take somebody from their bedroom where they've been playing guitar and putting them on a huge stage, and expecting them.
No, you shouldn't do it that way. That's why you can't really select those bedroom people, if you can say, call it like this.
Yeah.
Directly to Eurovision. That's why actually we made the competition to it, as well as they proved themselves through this kind of experience. And then, it's up to them how to deal with them. What we did is that we train or we practice a lot with them all. Because in here, even the big stars, they really don't know how this big television is done. No one really wants them to do it. No one really knows what staging means. How 20 cameras, 25 cameras really look like in the arena. Focus edits, and then you have full stadium of people. No one did it, and I really think that in this case, it doesn't really matter if you're already a star, or kind of star, local star, or not, because no one really has this experience. And maybe being a local star doesn't really mean anything in the European scale. No one anyway knows you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, because most Eurovision performers are unknown outside of their own country anyway, so I mean, so when we see a Czech act or whatever, they could be the biggest star in the Czech Republic, but
it doesn't mean it. Nothing.
Doesn't mean it. Likewise, we send somebody, but the assumption is that you are sending your best act and your most professional act, and
you said the best act, but that doesn't really mean that the biggest star.
Not necessarily the biggest star, but you're sending your best shot from the Czech Republic or from Ireland to Eurovision, so in order to, and because we know what the competition is like, you naturally want to select people who are going to be able to withstand that
That pressure, yeah.
that pressure, and also be able to perform at that level. So that's why I think we've been doing an internal selection for the last couple of years in terms of the artists, and I think that's worked because we've been able to say, well, this person will be good, this person has experience, this person will be good. This person is an unknown. And we've taken a chance over the years with people who have been lesser known, and some of them have done very, very well. Absolutely. So, and then there's all of this stuff that it becomes a full-time job. People don't realize that this is a full-time job.
3 minutes, how it can take a whole year. It does.
From October to May, it is nearly a full-time job, particularly this year, because we've been doing the backup tapes, we've been making our own postcards with green screen, we've been doing all of the stuff, but you're right, people think, how could a 3-minute song be a full-time job? But it is a full-time job.
It is, you need to do it full-time as well as you write a brand, and you, of course, each of us wants to be successful as well. One of my videos was about music is a competition, whether you like it or not. It is, because even in Eurovision, we compete, we support each other, we talk to each other, we share our experience, we advise each other, we tell our opinions, but at the end of the day, we're competitors anyway. That's how it is, and that's good, I think, because it's pushed us all forward, and that's why the Eurovision itself is rising up with the any measurements you can point out. It's just bigger and bigger, and it's probably being bigger.
And one of the things I love about the competition, and this is a very selfish thing from my point of view, is that there is a lot of there's a lot of collegiality. Everybody is there to help everybody else. It's not there's people are going around like Tonya Harding trying to nobble other performers. It's not like that, so there's a lot of goodwill amongst the artists, and they make friends for life, and because they all go through the same experience, and and it's for most artists it's a once in a lifetime experience, but for you and me, we're lucky we get to go every year until somebody says, "You've had enough, get out,"
yeah.
which could happen at any time.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard to understand for the people who just watch the television, even the television professionals just in the TV, especially when their own country doesn't really have such a show, and they don't have any compare to it. So why is this like this? This is the biggest laboratory how to do television, even in the scale of smaller country like Ireland is, or Czech Republic is, even it's bigger. But Malta is really small. They do a great job as well, So
but I also think that's because Malta, they still view the competition as something valuable to win. Because we've won it 7 times, people go, well, we've won it 7. We don't need to prove anything. We're still the king, even though we haven't won in 30 years or 25 years. People still say, well, sure, we're the kings of Eurovision. We know how to do that. We've done that. We've won it so many times. There's nothing we can, we've shown Europe how it's done.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I look at it and go, no, the competition has changed, and we need to prove ourselves all over again in a bigger stage, in a bigger arenas, and in a bigger, tougher competition. But that's unfortunately, but what I think what will help us, or help people like me with my broadcaster, is that if we go to Eurovision and we don't have to win it, but if we qualify for the final, if we get into the left-hand side of the scoreboard, people will start getting excited about the competition again. And once they get excited about the competition again, then you will attract more and more people who want to be part of it. Not just people who think, I'm a have-a-go hero, I can do that.
Yeah. How did actually Ryan help this case to you?
Yeah, Ryan did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that was the first time we qualified in a good few years, and
you have a great result as well. And
it was a good result. Yeah, absolutely. And so definitely helped our case. You know, Ryan doing really well with that song definitely helped our case. And he was a great artist, and he was a great ambassador for us when he was there as well. You know, so but a lot of people don't realize that the normal experience for most countries is don't qualify, don't qualify, don't qualify, 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 don't qualify. You know, it's up and down. So there are periods of time when, you know, most countries won't qualify. You know, so if you take it over 10 or 15 years, you know, we're probably about average in terms of qualification and not qualification. You know, maybe a little bit below average, but we're not at the bottom of the heap, and we're definitely not at the top. You know, so.
Yeah, but like find a way how to constantly go into the finals. Probably the way as well for improvement. If you're normally, if anybody doesn't really expect that you do it, and they don't expect it in advance, if you don't even have an artist yet or the song, that's not the greatest thing to work with. You know.
Yeah. You surprise them with the really good result. I'm going to have a conversation with you about how you managed to change the perception in the Czech Republic, how you managed to persuade your TV bosses this was worth doing, this is worth investing more money in.
I needed to lie a lot. It's easy.
Well, can you write it down? Send me how you did it.
Yeah, we can continue after. We can have a chat afterwards. Anyway. Let's go to 2021 and Leslie, how she takes that her song actually was taken very, very good, very well by not just the Eurovision audience but in general.
Yeah, I mean, I like when the show was cancelled last year, she was obviously very, very disappointed, and you know, she wanted to have another shot at representing Ireland in the Eurovision, and I said, absolutely, I think it's only fair that you should be, you know, at the top of the list, you know, when we were coming to look at artists for 2021. And I said, but it all depends on a song. You need to come back with a song that is as good, if not better, than the one you have this year. And you know, I gave her like a deadline to like the end of August or the end of, you know, middle of September last year. And she lives in New York. She at her own expense. She went to Sweden. She was working with some singers and songwriters in Sweden, and then she came back to Dublin and she did her quarantining, and then she rang me up and said, "I think I have the song for you." So, but this is like October, so I was going, well, I'm going to have to start thinking of. It's still okay, yes. I've said I'm gonna have to start thinking about a plan B if this isn't going to work out. So she played me the song, and straight away I went, I really like the song. I think the song could do really well. It's definitely got and sort of an instant appeal. It's got a and you know,
and definitely sounds Ireland, like whether UK or Ireland style.
There's a kind of a Celtic-y kind of vibe to it, you know, even though. There's a lot of Swedish people involved in the process with her, but it's definitely Leslie's stamp all over the song. So yes, as soon as that happened, then she went back to New York, and it's very difficult in normal circumstances to work with somebody who lives in New York. You've got some producers are in Stockholm, your creative directors in Stockholm, so it doesn't get any easier with the pandemic, obviously. But so she came back to Dublin. She moved back to Dublin at the end of December, and she's been living here full time, herself and her wife Lauren, and she has been working full time every day on this since the end of December. I mean, her application to work is really, really incredible. You know, I couldn't be happier with her. You know, with her application to it.
That's very inspirational as well for the other artists, that they shouldn't be lazy and really take it seriously.
incredibly seriously, like, you know, and as she should. But I mean, she doesn't take a day off, you know. So so she's always on the phone to me, and always on the phone to different people, and thinking about different things that she can do and ways of promoting the song and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it helps me. As you know, if your artist has a very, very strong vision about what they want to do, because if they don't, then
you don't have a really good artist as well.
Yeah, you need somebody with a very, very strong sense of their own identity, with a very, very strong sense of a vision. So so she went off and she found the creative director and came back and said, "I've got this guy from Sweden. What do you think?" And you know, and yeah, he was great. We liked him, and we brainstormed some ideas, and so we've got a very, very unusual staging for the song. That's all I can tell you, Jan, at the moment. But it is. I think it's going to be like nothing else in Eurovision. It really is. It's. I don't think anybody's done anything like it. In the past, you know. So
I'm really curious about this.
I'm quite excited about it, and I hope it doesn't all unravel, you know. But I don't think it will. I think
you never know that. It's very unpredictable, and you don't know what other countries will do as well. So that's always like tricky.
Absolutely, there could be 6 other countries doing the same thing. So
yeah, well, probably not. Like it wouldn't be allowed anyway.
Probably not.
How do you see your chances as you're in this super like hard semi-final? I would say both are hard, but this is definitely like super hard. Heavyweights are there, like countries who have the good record of qualifications and really, really good results each year in last decade, and as well that the quality of songs in general rised up like a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always think back to, like, I don't, you know, every year there's the odds, the Eurovision odds, and people look at the odds and see who's going to win, you know, and they predict from the odds. I don't pay any attention to that, because I think that's a distraction, because really people only make a judgment about your song when they see it in the semi-final for the first time, because that's when most people see your song for the first time, or hear your song for the first time. So I don't really pay any attention to the odds. I tend not to analyze other people's songs or rank them in, you know, in the semi-final, because everything can change, you know, and there's no point in, you know, I think the best thing to do is just concentrate on what you're doing and not worry about anybody else. And you just try and do the best job you can with your act and your song, and you know, you let the cards fall wherever they will. But I remember back to Ryan O'Shaughnessy when we were in Lisbon. He was, you know, nobody said he was going to qualify.
Yeah,
they
no
all
one
said he's a non-qualifier, right? He's a non-qualifier, but we knew we had a really good song and a really good staging and a really good vibe to the whole thing.
Yeah, and great artist as well.
And a great artist, yeah. And so I knew in my heart, I said, you know, I just felt that we would qualify. I thought it might be 9 or 10, but we would qualify. But in the end, we qualified like number 6 or, you know, 5 or 6 or whatever. So, and then suddenly you go from like non-qualifier, no hope of getting to the final, to
miserable
third favourite
Ireland
to win. Yeah, suddenly we're third favourite to win the competition, you know, and...
Yeah,
so
that's how I think this year, especially because of course I'm observing the odds, and I always did out of curiosity, and I was of course wanted to be like the best, you know, this kind of thing competition wise. And then you just sometimes watch not just your country, but you watch the others, and like, how is that possible? Like, why are like it doesn't make sense, like,
because
I think,
you know, it's down to no, but it's down to who's prepared to bet. So like if I'm a you know, a multi-billionaire Russian, and my
be careful about third times. It's really hard nowadays, you know.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? If I decide to put 100,000 euro on, you know, Benny in the Czech Republic, the odds go shooting up, you know. So it's all down to it's all. So I don't take those odds seriously. I mean, I don't.
No. But it's always like kind of like unpredictable. Sure, and I think this year can be very, very unpredictable as well. In this case, what do you say about the Like you for sure heard all of those songs anyway, but what do you think about the quality each year? Do you think it's rising up, or it's just my perception to it?
No. The quality of the songs, I think. I think that varies, because that's I think the quality of the staging and the professionalism with which they're done, I think, is getting better every year. Like, so it there's no doubt about it. I think the innovation of, in terms of how people stage their acts, I think is getting really, really more and more creative. I mean, I think the songs have always been the songs. I mean, if you go back to, tastes in pop music change, obviously, over the years. But, I mean, some of the songs that were in the Eurovision from the 1990s and the 1980s and from the 2000s, they still stand up as really good songs now, There's a general change, though. I mean, I think it's much more... I think the songs that you hear in Eurovision now, you could hear on the radio anywhere in the world. Whereas in the past, you might say, that sounds like a Eurovision song. That's a Eurovision song. That was written for Eurovision. But now I think it is the global pop music business that has come to one arena, for 3 nights in May. That's what it is, because all of those songs, like Duncan Lawrence last year, like that's a global pop hit, So any of those songs that you hear this year, I think, would stand up on a radio station anywhere in the world, and people wouldn't necessarily know, oh, that's a Eurovision, that was a Eurovision song,
Yeah, and do you see that the example of Duncan Lawrence and his success and his global success, which took even like 2 years to float all over the world. Nowadays he's like a revamped himself, kind of, with just one song. But do you think that's going to be really inspirational for the others to join in Eurovision? And that's for the brand itself, for the Eurovision brand itself, this is a huge step forward.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, I don't know if you have the same problem in the Czech Republic, but I have a real hard time trying to get radio stations to play our Eurovision entry. And
that was the same here.
It's not because they don't think the song is good, or the song doesn't fit. It's just because the Eurovision label, they just don't want to play it.
Yeah. How can you understand that the music professionals which they didn't done Eurovision, but they still have this kind of approach? Do you think that this industry, like the music industry, is a bit blind to new things? Like, the televisions are always criticized how slow they are in the processes. Like, we both know they are kind of slow in a lot of processes, and that's kind of impossible to change. But how can you, why don't we criticize as well the radio station as well? Because it's kind of backwardness from them as well.
Yeah, but it's like, when you're one voice, banging a drum for Eurovision, everybody wants to be cool. Everybody wants to be, the friend of the cool artists. Everybody wants to be, to associate themselves with something really, really hip and cool. Eurovision is not that. So it's hard even to convince people in the record business who should know better, and people in the radio business who should know better. They just don't want it. Like, they'd sooner play a song from, Damien Rice, or, Hozier, or the Fontaines DC, which is a big Irish act coming along at the moment, And all of those acts are good. I'm not giving out about those acts, but they're seen as much cooler to be hanging around with,
It's not like shameful brand still. Kind of, it's weird for me to... I still, argue with the 200 million people thing. It's like, how still, it's like, no one has this kind of outage. Like, no one, literally zero, in the world. Like, how, why is this still taken somehow So unseriously.
Why? I don't know. It's a mystery to me as well because, you know, people even now when I tell people like this is the biggest live music audience in the world, it's 200 million people. It's bigger than the Super Bowl. It's bigger than, you know, the Grammy Awards. It's bigger than the Oscars nearly. You know, so
No, it's much bigger than Oscars.
Yeah, so they get surprised and they go, really? I didn't realize that. I just thought it was this weird little competition that happened every May. And I said, no. And then, you know, but you see, it goes back to we think about it a lot more than other people, you know, because we're involved in it so much. We think about it a lot more than other people. We realize, you know, the complexity of it and the scale of it. Other people just don't even give it any thought. They just go, oh, it's something that
it's
happens.
Eurovision once a year.
Yeah.
That's it.
Eurovision once a year.
Well, our time is finished, Michael. I have plenty of questions, but we will probably finish this in the private. But thank you. I'm really thankful that you had time for me to share with me. It was a very inspirational interview. Thank you.
Do you know what? It's been like therapy for me, Jan. I can get this stuff off my chest and talk to somebody who understands the what we go through every year, and it's been great. And I love your series on YouTube. I think it's really, really good. And anybody who wants to know anything about how Eurovision works, I think I would recommend it. It's like a textbook for you know, for understanding the competition. So thank you for doing that. It's been great.
All right, guys, and that was Michael Keeley and his answers, and a great chat. I must say, very inspirational. And you know, my history with Michael is that I always saw him work very, very hard. I learned a lot from him. He was there always to give me some help or advice or just an opinion, and I was always open-minded about it. And I will be too, and I think you should be too as well, especially if you're from Ireland, to really try to understand what and how and why he does things, as he's doing really, really good job for the country. And I think we will see this result in near future as well, in the long-term view, as some things in television world just take time. But you, as fans of Eurovision, you can really help it, and you can help him. You know, spread the word about the Eurovision, talk positively about it, talk how big opportunity for the artists it is, and maybe you will be the person who will inspire next Irish representative for Eurovision. Well, I really hope so. So that's it from me for now. I would be glad if you're subscribed to the channel, like the video, share the video, tell your friends about it. I would be super glad to grow in this world, and you know, to share the ideas of me, or to share my opinions of Eurovision and the opinions of others as well in my Humans of Eurovision show. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.